June 14th, 2017, London, 4 in the morning. In an apartment on the 4th floor of the residential building Grenfell Tower, a refrigerator catches fire. An ordinary household refrigerator, of which there are millions in Britain. On the front panel, a white logo. One word, Hotpoint. Within a few hours, the fire kills 72 people. This is the largest residential catastrophe in modern British history, and at its center is a name that for decades meant only one thing: reliability. How did a company that began with a household iron in 1903 arrive at this moment? There is no simple answer. It is 120 years of inventions, corporate greed, popular love, and quiet degradation. And to understand the end, you need to start at the very beginning. In California, with one man, and with an iron that people refuse to return. Earl Holmes Richardson was born in Wisconsin. By the beginning of the 20th century, he was working for a small electric company in Ontario, California, reading meters, managing a substation. In the evenings, he experimented in a workshop. Electricity was only just entering American life, and Richardson felt the possibilities were being used at 1%. Light bulbs, yes. Streetcars, yes. But the home was still living on coal and muscle power. Electric irons already existed by then. The first had been patented back in 1882, but they were heavy, inconvenient, and heated in the center of the sole plate. Any laundress will tell you the center is not the important place. The important part is the tip. It is the tip that works around buttons, in the folds of collars, in ruffles and cuffs. Richardson moved the heating element forward. The iron became hot at the point. Hotpoint. He convinced his electric company to supply power every Tuesday, all day, laundry day, so that the neighborhood women could try the new iron. Then he gave several laundresses prototypes for a week. When he came to collect them, they refused to give them back. By 1905, Richardson was selling more electric irons than any other company in America. In 1911, he officially registered the Hotpoint Electric Heating Company and immediately began thinking bigger. A whole line of kitchen electrical appliances, all under one name: El Tosto, a toaster; El Perco, a coffee pot; El Eggo, an egg cooker; El Warmo, an electric heating pad. El from the word electric. It was not simply an expansion of the product range, it was a manifesto. Electricity had come home. With the money from his patents, in 1915, Richardson bought land in the Mojave Desert for $75,000 and founded a town, Adelanto, one of the first planned communities in Southern California. A man who started with an electricity meter became a city developer. The iron paid for the town. But Richardson was not alone. While he was making irons in California, at the other end of the country, in Iowa, a 33-year-old former journalist named George Hughes was struggling with a completely different problem. He wanted to create an electric stove. The first prototypes were primitive, heating wire pressed into clay bricks that burned out after hours of operation. Hughes rebuilt it again and again. It was not technological progress, it was stubbornness. Each failure made the next attempt more precise. By 1910, he had a working product. By 1918, his own company with real sales. He spent 10 years reaching his stove. Richardson spent about the same reaching his iron. Two people, two different kitchen problems, two ends of the same idea. Electricity should cook and wash, not just shine. In 1918, a merger occurred that would define the next 80 decades. Richardson's company, Hughes's company, and the heating division of General Electric merged into one structure, Edison Electric Appliance Company. Hughes became its first president. Richardson remained to run the factory in Ontario. Small Californian and Iowan workshops became part of one of the largest corporations in the world. The name on the products remained one: Hotpoint. The 20s and 30s were the golden American period. Refrigerators replaced iceboxes, electric stoves replaced coal ones, washing machines eliminated several hours of heavy weekly labor, and Hotpoint was at the center of it. In 1923, a small story happens that changes the face of the kitchen forever. A municipal official from Raleigh, North Carolina, orders a white enameled stove from Hotpoint. Such a thing does not exist. All stoves at the time are black or brown. Hotpoint names an astronomical price to scare him off. The official pays. Hotpoint is forced to invent a new technological process for applying enamel. The white stove comes out in 1923. Within a few years, white becomes the standard for the entire industry. We still call refrigerators and washing machines white goods because in 1923, one stubborn official from North Carolina did not accept refusal. The post-war 1950s become a time of a real cultural rise for Hotpoint in America. The country is experiencing a consumer boom. Millions of families are moving into new homes in the suburbs, and every such home needs to be equipped from scratch. Refrigerator, stove, washing machine, dryer. Hotpoint is present in each of these categories and is actively advertised on the Young American television. It is then that a young actress appears in Hotpoint advertising whom no one knows yet. Her character is called Happy Hotpoint, a cheerful assistant who tells housewives about the advantages of new appliances. The actress's name is Mary Tyler Moore. A decade later, she will become one of the main stars of American television. But first, Hotpoint refrigerator commercials. In 1941, the factory in Ontario produces its 20 millionth iron. A gold-plated specimen is presented to Richardson's sister. He himself had died 7 years earlier. In 1956, the plant produces its 50 millionth. President Eisenhower attends the ceremony. Seriously. By 1980, the counter will reach 150 million from a single California workshop. By that time, the GE Appliance Park factory in Louisville, where most Hotpoint appliances were produced, was turning out more than 60,000 appliances per week. It was the largest home appliance factory in the world. One factory, 60,000 refrigerators, stoves, and washing machines every week. In 1950, the first electric dryer without steam appears. In 1953, a refrigerator on wheels so it can be rolled away and cleaned behind. Behind a regular refrigerator standing flush against the wall, dust and dirt accumulated for years. It was impossible to reach. A small solution to a real problem. These are exactly the kinds of things that make a brand beloved. In 1965, the first washing machine with a delicate wash mode. Silk, cashmere, fine knitwear. Now they can be washed in a machine. At the same time, starting in 1920, the British chapter unfolds. GE and Hotpoint create a joint venture in the United Kingdom to sell electrical appliances on the local market. In 1923, production of Hotpoint washing machines begins in Wales. The first models with the names gyrating action and aeroball action are mechanical constructions that create water movement around the laundry. No automation, just a motor and a principle. But British housewives, accustomed to a tub and a washboard, accept them immediately. Then war. And it is exactly here that Hotpoint makes a step that secures its status forever. In 1940, the British government launches a massive prefabricated housing program for families affected by bombing. Thousands of prefab houses that can be installed in a few days. Each one needs appliances. The government chooses Hotpoint. Washing machines, refrigerators, water heaters. Hotpoint equips entire neighborhoods. This is not an advertising contract. It is recognition. The brand has become part of the national infrastructure. It is at this moment that an image forms in the British mind that will last for several generations. Hotpoint is not luxury, not status. It is something that should be in every home. By the 1960s, Hotpoint becomes the leader of the home appliance market in the United Kingdom. Factories in Wales, Peterborough, and Yate are operating at full capacity. 7,000 employees in Britain alone. The factory in Llandudno produces 800,000 washing machines a year. In every second British home, at least one appliance with this name. Large white stoves with 4 burners and a wide oven. Generations roasted Sunday roast beef in them. Refrigerators with a magnetic sealing gasket that makes a satisfying smack when closing. Washing machines that worked 20 years without a single call to a repair technician. In 1990, the first Hotpoint fridge-freezer appears that does not require manual defrosting, and along with it, the Mistral model, wide, spacious, with the freezer compartment at the bottom. For the next decade, it becomes one of the best-selling refrigerators in the country. How many British families stored milk, butter, and the leftovers of Sunday lunch in it? Impossible to count. In the mid-1990s, Hotpoint was advertised in Britain with a single number. Every 19 seconds, one appliance of this brand is sold in the country. Not per day, every 19 seconds. It was the absolute peak. And it is exactly at this moment that the company begins to pass from hand to hand. Each of Hotpoint's inventions is not a breakthrough for the sake of breakthrough. It is attentiveness to how people actually live. That was the real character of the brand. But precisely now, when it is at the top, a chain of events begins that in 30 years will lead to that apartment in Grenfell Tower. In 1989, Hotpoint ceased to be an independent brand and became an asset in a corporate portfolio. First, a division of British GEC, together with the American GE. Then, in 2001, the Italian company Merloni Elettrodomestici bought the British share for £121 million. In 2005, Merloni was renamed Indeset Company. Hotpoint became an Italian brand with a British name. And here is where what repair technicians saw begins. The people who had been fixing Hotpoint machines for 30 years straight. The old machines could be disassembled with a standard set of tools. Find the problem, buy a spare part at any store. The diagram was clear, the construction logical. After the transition to Indeset, everything changed. The same electronics, the same platforms as Indeset, only the logo was different. Diagnostics required a proprietary laptop. Electronic modules had to be programmed. An independent repair technician could no longer help. But the most important thing was something else. The washing machine drum was now permanently sealed inside a plastic casing. If the bearing wore out, and it wears out in all machines, previously it could be replaced in an hour. Now it meant replacing the entire drum assembly, which costs almost as much as a new machine. The manufacturer was effectively designing disposability. The old Hotpoint lasted 20 years and could be repaired in a garage. The new one broke after 8 and was thrown away. In 2014, Indeset was completely absorbed by the American Whirlpool for €2 billion, the 8th owner in 100 years. Hotpoint was now just a line in a corporate registry alongside 24 other brands. And here is an important point that is rarely talked about. Before Grenfell, there was another scandal. In 2015, Indeset announced a problem with tumble dryers, a design defect, a fire hazard. About 800,000 units were affected. Whirlpool, which by then already owned the company, began sending engineers to modify the machines. The process dragged on for 4 years. An official recall came only in 2019. For 4 years, people used machines that the manufacturer knew could catch fire. This is important context, because when in June 2017, a Hotpoint FF175BP refrigerator catches fire in an apartment in Grenfell Tower, it was not the first warning sign, it was the second. The investigation established the cause of the fire, a wiring defect, poor crimping of a connector in the compressor compartment of the rear panel. The wire was not held as firmly as it should have been, overheating, short circuit, fire. 64,000 of the same model had been sold in Britain between 2006 and 2009, still under Indeset before Whirlpool. The cladding caught fire, and here the second catastrophe inside the catastrophe. The cladding burned like a torch because it had not passed standard fire safety tests. That is a separate story, with separate parties responsible. But it all started with the refrigerator. Whirlpool initially stated that the official investigation found no grounds for recalling the product. An independent expert examination, as part of the public inquiry into Grenfell, reached the opposite conclusion. The cause was the refrigerator, the wiring, a specific design decision. The dispute between lawyers and experts has continued for years. The lawsuit against Beko Europe, Whirlpool's successor in Europe, for more than £358 million has still not been resolved. The name Hotpoint has been spoken in a context from which it cannot escape. In 2023, Whirlpool sold its European business to the Turkish company Arçelik, the owner of Beko. In America, the brand belongs to GE Appliances, a division of the Chinese company Haier. The same logo, two different worlds. In December 2024, the last Hotpoint factory in the United Kingdom closed, the plant in Yate, which had operated for 104 years. The last workers left the site. The gates closed. All appliances are now produced in Italy, Poland, and Turkey. Earl Richardson died in 1934 in his home in Ontario, California. He was one of the wealthiest people in the county. He saw how an iron became an empire. He founded an entire city in the desert, Adelanto, with money from patents. He did not see any of what happened later. Sometimes the history of a brand is not the history of a product. It is a story about what happens to things when they stop belonging to the people who invented them. The factory in Yate is closed. The brand is sold. Turkey, Poland, Italy. The people in those factories have never heard of Earl Richardson and his laundresses who refused to give up the iron. Did you have a Hotpoint at home? A washing machine? A refrigerator? A stove? Write in the comments and tell what impression you were left with after using Hotpoint.